Very good afternoon to every one of us. Sir Arunji, thank you for your welcoming remarks. Sir Kulkarniji, thank you for organizing the whole event in a very short notice. All of you must know my country, Indonesia. Sir Senior Vice President already put it in a very simple way. For over 2 millennia of cultural ties, connection between the two countries and the trading, things must have gone very much for the 2 millenniums. Now the most provocative question now is, what about the youngsters in respective countries? How much do they share the wisdom and the knowledge about the 2 millennia of interaction, be that on cultures or on trading? Where do youngsters in Indonesia go when they perceive Indian? And where do majority of Indian youngsters understand Indonesia in that sense? All of you in this room must agree on this wisdom. But what about the remaining others? Hundreds of millions don't share exactly the same wisdom with you. So this presentation is actually the continuation of what the Indonesian Embassy in New Delhi has been doing so far in promoting the business opportunities and in reaching out to as extensive stakeholders as possible, be that in the sitting in Delhi or in state. Because we are expecting the arrival of Indonesian President for the second visit to Delhi. First visit was in December 2016. And the next visit during Republic Day in this January 2018, we would like to see things progressing rather rapidly in between the two visits, while hoping that Sir Premierji will consider also some time for the visit to Jakarta. So now doing business with remarkable Indonesia. This is the map. That's India. This is the country, the archipelago. That is the whole map of Indonesia. We're sitting in the ring of fire. All this ring of fire is everywhere. This means that this ring of fire, these volcanic mountains, produce mineral deposits so rich that you can name anything from gold, coal, into iron ore, copper ore, everything we have in Indonesia. This is our trading route for some millennia. Look at how close we are and connected, be that on the Sea Road or Silk Road through China. And this is circa 500 to 1,000. And this is how political contestation within our area. Look at the bases, Indian naval bases. The Chinese with the Pakistani are somewhere along the neighborhood. This is the largest Buddhist temple for among of you who are exposed to this. This is Borobudur temple. Right, this is our rice terrace. This is the beach and the falls. Most populous country with this nearly 250 million populations. We are the 15th largest economy, nearly 3 trillion US dollar GDP, and per capita income of 5,200 and belong to the G20. This is what we have now. Strong reform commitment, sustainable GDP growth, democracy, growing market, relatively politically stable country. And this is what we have as we sit on the ring of fire. This is what we export, not so much with value addition. We import from India even much more, chemical and pharmaceutical, fertilizers, cotton machines, motor vehicles and all that. Global Competitiveness Index is reaching top 41, and the Japan Bank for International Cooperation is promoting Indonesia as number 5 promising country for business development. It is still the largest market in Southeast Asia, huge in ICT growth with this television coverage, internet users, handphone and all that. ICT is actually picking up. FDI is realized. In January-December 2016 statistics is amounting over 25 billion US dollar, 150 million populations. To our surprise, your port of India, I think your southernmost tip of India as territory, Nicobar Island is within only 60 nautical miles from our northern territory in Sabang Island. So it's closer to Indonesia than to Delhi. So imagine how our fishermen actually cross borders, becoming headache in respective capitals because of these cross-border issues. Ease of doing business. This is Indonesia as for doing business 2018 and ease of doing business in 2017, number 72. India is actually hiking from 130 to 100 and even more to make. Out of 10 indicators, Indonesia is associated with 91st top reformer country. Now we are in 72 in doing business 2018. Now this is the GDP forecast in billion, and Indonesia is somehow picking up from 16 somewhere 2030. God knows, I think this is no longer China. India must be here, highly likely. In purchasing power parity, this is where we are. This is India. I think India must be here. So we are here in number 72 on doing business. The rating from international consultants agencies, here we are now positive, triple B minus, BAA 3, triple B minus, and all that. Now on bilateral relations, the trading, the balance of trade is quite gloomy on Indian side, because out of this balance, the deficit in India is nearly 7 billion US dollar per year. Last year alone in 2016. Out of nearly 20 billion US dollar of bilateral volume in trade, 7 deficit is on Indian side. Now this is what you export to Indonesia. Petcoke, telecommunications, the Vice President already mentioned that. This is what you import from Indonesia. The CPO, coal, copper ores, even gold. Gold is not listed here. Even gold. You know how addicted Indians are with gold. And we produce and export gold. India is also our topest market for gold. This is the number of investment in 2016, 485 projects amounting to 55 million US dollar. This is Indonesia investment in India, in Hyderabad. We have a liaison office of Wilmar Adani, and subsidiary of Sinarmas Group to Gemini is also in Hyderabad on CPO, both on food processing, and many others in different states. Now this is what Indonesia can offer. On infrastructure, we are pursuing 35 gigawatt new projects. We try to diversify our power sources, and your renewable, as Premier already experienced in the state of Gujarat, is very, very impressive. And we need to emulate your model on renewable energy. On agriculture, there are things, there are opportunities for you to actually, the data mentioned on the bovine meat import from India, actually on the trading dimension of it, we would like to consolidate with the investment. Textile still there, your giants, Indorama and Aditya Birla Group already invest in the textile industry. These are other sectors that we would like to seek from Indian investment. I understand that Indians also consume many sweets, but cacao-based sweets, Indonesia is exporting and producing many of the cacao. We don't know yet how to consolidate your market on the cacao, on the sweet, on chocolate, to the Indonesian production, and on tourism, special economic zones for tourism. The connectivity is one issue. Since we are archipelagic country, we need more on the air connectivity and sea connectivities in Indonesia. These are medium and smaller scale of airport that we would like to have in Indonesia. On these Kalimantan Islands, many Indians actually come and fly here for coal, and in these Sumatra Islands for CPO. So largely the two islands, you can have your own colony, to speak, because of the import of this CPO and coal. The free trade zones, the special economic zones, out of 8 existing special economic zones, we would like to have even more. I've been informed now it's 25 that we would like to build and construct industrial parks, but the industry is too heavy on Java Island. We would like to actually see another islands also enjoy the share of the industrializations of the country. Sumatra, Kalimantan Islands, Sulawesi, Moluccas Island, these are the Moluccas Islands. You can imagine 17,000 islands, small and big, in Indonesia, and not even 1/10 of it inhabited by the people. The existing ones, and we need to build even more. The special economic zones, 25 of them we would like to achieve. These are the industrial park. Now the challenges. Now one thing for sure, there is a linguistic constraint to communicate with Indonesians because English is not our lingua franca. It is Bahasa. Unlike Indians who are very lucky to enjoy the English as their medium for communications, if you fail in Telugu or Hindi or Marathi, then you still communicate in English anyway. In Indonesia, once you fail Bahasa, that's it, doom. You cannot communicate with the others. Myself, I come from the West Sumatra province. I do not speak the language of my wife. So we speak only in Bahasa. So it's quite an issue when it comes to communicating with agreed medium. Now the key challenges, definitely infrastructure and logistics, you know, because this is an archipelago. Business licensing, now we streamline, we downstream the whole process and simpler. Regulation and policy, we still have our negative list, still some homeworks to be done. Labor issues with the minimum wages and industrial relations and all that, we are picking up. These are the key challenges. The government has come up with some incentive and some policies. Wage formulation, more certain formula for business, annual increase based on inflation rate and economic growth. On tax incentive, we still rely on this. For free VAT for shipbuilding, railway and airplane industries. Cost reduction on gas and electricity. Deregulations. There are many regulations reviewed by the central government. This is one package that they are actually promoting now to establish the OSS, the one service stop at BKPM, the Indonesia Investment Agency Board, and the whole process from establishment of the OSS, monitoring and facilitation of investment realizations, the improvement on investment regulatory framework and climate. Now we modernize even faster than before. Special economic zones. These are some on the investment dimension that you would like to see. I understand that your giants on Tata and on and even Adani and Shapurji Palunji already look into the potentials on this. Now, forward projections, the growth projections by 2020, these are the numbers. The population is expected to reach nearly 270 million population in 2020. President Joko Widodo has targets in 2019 on the connectivity. I understand that Indian central government is also promoting line of credit for digital connectivity, but we haven't talked much more on maritime connectivity and air connectivity. These are the infrastructures required until 2019. On the basic infrastructure, the electrification ratio, it is growing into nearly 100%. On the water supply, 1,118 cubic meter per second. But irrigation is something that we are quite proud of. It's getting better in many parts of the islands in Indonesia. Education, now you can invest in the higher education in Indonesia. By state budget, by the central government budget, nearly 50 billion US dollar of education budgets now allocated by the central government. On tourism, because we already opened direct flights from India to Indonesia, we managed to mobilize last year alone nearly 400,000 Indian tourists coming to Indonesia. We could have achieved even 500,000 of Indian tourists if only Indian islanders also and contribute into direct flight to Indonesia. As of now, out of 28 volume of flight per week, all already used by the Indonesian airliners, flying from Mumbai, Kolkata, and Chennai to Denpasar and to Jakarta and Medan, but not yet from New Delhi to Jakarta. On investment, on tourism investment, the Indonesian government understands that this is part of the industry that could bring generate quick income to many stakeholders in the industry. So investment on the infrastructure of tourism is now picking up. The realization is growing like this. Nearly 30% of the pickup from 2013 to 2016. The target is 53% in 2017. This is the amount of the investment realized on the tourism sector. Bali still tops the list, and then Riau Island in Jakarta, Singaporean tourists, Chinese, and Malaysia. Tourism industry required in Indonesia now. If you invest in the hospitality industry, then you will see that one thing for sure, one of the features of Indonesians are they love opening up your restaurants because Indians are very strict in their pattern of consumption. The increasing numbers of Indian tourists in Indonesia is so huge. If you open your own restaurant, be that veg or non-veg, I'm sure you make your own captive market in Indonesia. Otherwise, Indonesian dishes, the Indians will inquire too much of questions about what type of dishes is this and that. So if Indians opening their own restaurant, then for sure it's better for the tourists. And now the government is pursuing the idea, the plan to set up new tourist destinations, even much more beautiful and much more to offer than Bali. If it is maritime aqua-based tourism, Lake Toba in North Sumatra is one thing, and Tanjung Kelayang in Betung, they are so pristine, so serene and peaceful. Even the Italian tourists would like a share of their own island in the adjacent area of this particular island. Tanjung Lesung, Banten, we call this Kepulauan Seribu. Seribu means 1,000 island in Jakarta by the northern coast of the capital. And then West Nusa Tenggara, East Java, Semeru, and Bromo and Tengger, Borobudur in Central Java, Labuan Bajo in East Nusa Tenggara, Wakatobi in Southeast Sulawesi, and Morotai, North Maluku. I don't know how much Indian tourists actually appreciate beaches because most of your touristic destinations are hillies and mountains. These are top 10 tourism priority destinations, as we already saw in the previous map. Profile of investment on top 10 priority tourism destinations. This is the amount of investment required in terms of million US dollar, the projected arrival of foreign tourists, and the foreign exchange that expected to be generated from these other 10 new destinations apart from Bali. These are some of the infrastructure projects pursued by the current government. on the railway, the seaports, on the sea toll connecting one port to another. There are plenty more actually bridging one port to another, even on small islands. The fishing area, and one other good thing, because Indonesia is also very rich in its aquaculture industry. It has Wallacea line dividing west and east characters of fishes and reefs in these dividing line. Airport development project plan in many parts of older than Java Island. This is Java Island. Power plant 35 gigawatt across Indonesia. Hydro and geothermal power plant. You're familiar with the nature of the country, because geothermal is another alternative source of energy for Indonesia. Gas power plant, we also reserve a huge deposit of gas offshore and onshore. On coal, naturally, you understand the map on the coal potentials and the steam power plants. The reform policy, simplifying licensing process. It is transforming now. I don't know if by comparison to India, how simpler is it now? But for sure, during our flagship promotional event last November in Delhi, the embassy was organizing that event. Our Deputy of Investment Agency Board, the BKPM, assured that the whole process now involves all stakeholders relevant to the permit and licensing. So it's becoming simpler. The one-door policy, room for improvement for India and Indonesia investment relations. This is the value of India investment all over the world, and India's rank for world source of investment list. India value of investment to Indonesia. India's investment proportion to total FDI in Indonesia, still small amount of it, not even 1%. And India's investment value in Indonesia, $563 million US. The reform works that the Indonesian BKPM is working on. This is what the services that they are offering now from the PTSP, the one-stop service from the BKPM office. The incentives, the kind of incentives that the BKPM is offering now, from tax allowance, from the regulations, tax holiday, import duty facilities and all that. The 3-hour investment licensing service to complement the one-stop service, the OSS, if your investment worth 100 billion Indonesian rupiah, or about 8 million US dollar, or minimum employment of 1,000 local workers. 3 hours done. Shortly, there is a clip, 3-minute clip that I would like to show on the OSS, the one-stop service for all of you. This is the whole process that you will see in the clip. The fast track for import facility for capital goods. This on the infrastructure, even more friendlier for the potential investors. The thing now, the government is actually encouraging more of the infrastructure development on other than Java Island, because Java is now bearing too heavy of industrial parks. Now we would like to actually share on the other islands. This is one of the ports in Indonesia. Some of the pictures tell you hundreds of stories. This is our busway. For those of you who happen to have been in Jakarta, the capital, we have busway, dedicated corridor for the bus. The end. And the clip is coming next. Thank you. Terima kasih. Syukriya.